Sound speeds rolling. How did you guys like that Matt Diavella style intro? My first time trying to do something like that. It was interesting. Alright, what's up guys? Vince Blaze here with Adventures Within Media. I hope you guys are doing well. Today we're going to be tackling a little bit of an interesting topic, and I'm going to try not to bore you guys with it, but it's a pretty impactful moment in my life, in my videographer's career. Hopefully you guys can gain some insight. Hopefully you guys can understand that you guys aren't the only ones going through this, and hopefully you guys have a good laugh at how ridiculous this is. A year ago, on June 5th, 2020, my Canon 80D, along with the bag it was in, which had a pair of headphones and a sweater, got stolen. So in just a fraction of a second, $3,000 worth of gear was just gone. You know, losing my camera was a very traumatic incident for me. It was a very traumatic moment for me. And the thing is, I had just come back from such a magical moment, such a beautiful moment in the history of the world, really. And it just got swept away in just a blink of an eye. And unfortunately, because of that, it's hard for me to enjoy those memories. The Canon 80D was my first camera, and I always wanted to keep it. Regardless of what I bought, I just wanted to keep the camera so that one day I would be able to look back and say, wow, this is, where I started from, kind of thing. It was the first camera I ever purchased myself, and it's the camera that really got me started into this whole journey of content creation. Sometimes, when I think about that night, I always think of, where's the camera right now? I wish I knew, But anyways, I digress. Let me tell you how it all happened. So back in May of 2020, the whole Black Lives Movement started. The whole world was already going crazy, having been in lockdown for 3 months. So here in Winnipeg, a protest or rally got organized, and a couple of my friends invited me to go. This was one of my first major outings since the lockdown, and so I was really looking forward to it. And so I decided to bring my Canon 80D rather than my EOS R, just in case, things got rowdy and it would get a couple of scratches and nicks or something like that, just in case things got rowdy. I brought my Canon 80D with the kit lens that it came with. The rally went well. It was awesome. It was very educational for most of us. My friends really enjoyed it. There was definitely some alcohol consumption, and some of them really went ham, but overall we had a good time. That being said, once the rally was finished, there was a march, and when they came back, people weren't just going to leave. They kind of just crowded the streets of Winnipeg. There were people all across of downtown that were just honking their horns. They were just screaming and yelling at each other. The energy was really out there, and it was obviously a really great moment. I remember we were walking up and down this one street, and we had the boombox blasting, and people would just stop and dance with us, and people on the streets would start singing a song, and we were just having a good time. We ended up starting a dance off in front of the legislative building, and there was a big circle that was formed. 3 or 4 dancers just came on, and it was insane. I wish I had the footage to show you guys, to prove to you guys that we started it, because that was all us. As you guys probably can tell, the night was magical. It was insane. I had captured such good footage, incredible footage of that night, of that moment in history, and I was also having a good time. I was dancing, some of my friends would grab the camera, and it was just a great night. So once we were heading back to our cars, just before we got there, our group of friends, we parked up in a circle and started doing our little dance thing again, just the 5 or 6 of us. Yeah, in order to be able to dance or move freely, I took off my backpack, placed my camera in my bag, and put my bag against a tree that was nearby. We danced around for about 10 minutes there, and one of my friends really wasn't feeling well. They had clearly consumed too much alcohol, and I hadn't, so I decided to volunteer to drive them back home. After dropping them off, I realized that I didn't have my bag with me, and my heart just sank. It's one of those moments where you hear the ringing sound, ee, and I rushed back to the spot where it was. Definitely sped over the limit for sure, but unfortunately it wasn't there. I looked everywhere, and it was gone. At that moment, I lost it. I was crying, I was yelling, I was screaming, I was ballistic. I was gone. I was absolutely no longer in control. And as I was driving home, I remember having the one thought multiple times. I was driving down Kenniston and I was just thinking, man, I should just throw my car into the other lane and, you know, really try to take my life hoping that someone would hit me. That was probably the closest, well, the only moment in my life where I've really been like acutely suicidal for such a short amount of time. Thankfully, I made it back home. I passed out. The next morning, I got up. I posted a YouTube video that I had planned to release in a week. I just released it on YouTube, announced on Instagram that I was taking a social media break, deleted all my apps. I think at the time I wasn't doing too well with my relationship. And so I sent an email to my ex to break up with her, to tell her that I just couldn't do this anymore. I wasn't doing well and that I'd officially want to terminate this. We were already pretty much broken up at that time, but I just wanted to make it official. After that, I went completely black for a day. I just laid in bed completely paralyzed for an entire day. I slept a lot, but I also, thought a lot about what had happened, and I just kept on thinking, I don't want to do this anymore. That this was a sign from life that I need to give up, that this is not meant for me. And honestly, this was the closest I've ever been to actually giving up. Like, there's a lot of times when I go through hardship or there's a lot of, difficulties that arise during the filmmaking where I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. But it's kind of not like a joke, but it's more of like just me having a moment. But this was me actually believing that I wanted to quit. Like I was determined on quitting. I was already thinking about selling all my gear. I don't remember much from that day, but I do remember my sister even texted me. And not to say that my sister doesn't care about me, but she doesn't always pay attention to what I put on social media. And the fact that she reached out to me asking me if I was okay just goes to show in what kind of state I was. Yeah, sorry, just thinking about it really brings back a lot of the vivid memories that I have from that night. So yeah, I was in a pretty dark spot, as you guys can tell, that day. And, sometimes I think about how did I get out of that? I was in such a dark spot. How did I get out of it? Because, if I was able to do it then, I should be able to do it in smaller moments in my life, or I should be able to do it again if it were to rise. And, I just reflect on it just to think about what actually happened. And, when I was preparing this video, I was trying to also, create some concise things that you guys could maybe, implement if ever something like this were to happen to you. But one of the things that really got me out of it was productivity. So as I mentioned, my ex and I had just broken up at the time, but she realized that something was not okay since I had broken up with her via email. And she reached out to me. She kept on calling me and she asked me if I was okay. We ended up meeting up and I burst into tears and I told her what had happened, and she right away felt bad for me and, offered to help. She helped me put in a police report to hopefully find it. Nothing ever came out of that. Then after that, she came over and she helped me clean my place, and my place was not in a good condition after that 24 hours. But just the fact of when cleaning, but also being productive right afterwards, I think really helped me, kind of reset my mind. It felt good to be doing something productive that would help myself. So yeah, I'm extremely grateful that she took the time to help me out, even considering the situation we were in. It made the world of a difference to me. Another thing that got me out of that dark circle was honesty. I just had to be really, really honest, because I told you guys during that 24-hour period, I was thinking about quitting for sure. But then after that, it slowly started creeping in like, do you really want to quit? And I would just try to shove it down and be like, yes, I want to quit. I don't want to deal with this kind of stuff ever again. But I had to be honest because I knew that deep down, I would probably regret it. I knew just from who I am as a person that I would never be able to let it go truly. So I had to face that, as well as obviously other emotional issues that were rising at the time. I just had to come clean with myself and really accept that, and also accept the fact that I'm going to have to take more care of my stuff. I'm gonna have to be a lot more careful and implement processes, or just overall apply more energy towards what I'm doing if I want to succeed and make this a sustainable business. So once I came to terms with that truth, I think it also helped me slowly get out of it. The last thing that really got me out of it, I think, was actually shooting or content creation. So I read somewhere that, when an athlete gets hurt or injured doing a certain move, that once they heal the injury, that they need to go back and do that move again, just to get out of that fear right away. Because if you carry that fear with you, you're never going to get out of it. So creating content was probably the last thing I wanted to do. But my friend Lulu, who's she's a foodie here in Winnipeg, so she helps promote restaurants. She has those kind of relationships with them, and she does a phenomenal job. She's an amazing person as well. But she would also often invite me over to take photos, and that summer she also happened to wanted to improve her photography skills, so she would invite me along, and I think we had a shoot probably a day or 2 days later, and I canceled on her. Like I said, I deleted everything, and I just told her I'm not doing the shoot, and she knew that I was someone who didn't cancel ever. I'm not that kind of person unless there's a valid reason. And so she reached out to me asking me if I was okay, and I ended up telling her what had happened, and she still invited me on the shoot again a week later. However absurd that sounds, I think it was probably one of the best things that ever happened, just because, again, it got me creating, it got me shooting, it got me behind the camera right away. And obviously I'm super blessed that I had another camera, but having someone invite me, want me there, someone who accepted me as a person and who respected me, I think was everything that I needed at the time. So I'm super grateful for that. So those are 3 things that I would kind of recommend to anyone if you are going through something like this. Try to be productive right afterwards. It doesn't necessarily have to be content creation or artistic or whatever you're into, but try to be productive. So clean your place, go for a walk, maybe do some exercise if you're able to do so. I do think that having a little bit of a break from your actual craft or whatever it is that you are passionate about, I think having a break is important. Honestly, I think I should have probably taken more of a break, but my friend Lulu just kept on inviting me regardless. Any injury, takes some time to heal, so you do need to take that time, but when you have the chance afterwards, I'd say try to hop in, try to create again, try to get back into it at a slow pace, but just so you don't hold on to that fear forever. And obviously the other one I mentioned was honesty, was being really honest about why these things happened, or trying to find out, are there other factors in your life that might have impacted this event, that might have created this event or forced this event to happen, and just being honest with yourself. I think that honesty is always where you find the truth. I think being honest with yourself is probably the biggest power that we have as human beings. And remember to be kind to yourself, but honesty will likely get you through some of these tough moments. So now there's a few things that I personally learned from this event. One, I think, is just going back to why, and it's kind of related to the honesty thing. This was a good reminder that gear isn't everything. Even though I lost my first camera and it was, a terrible event or a terrible memory, the one thing I wish I had was the footage. I told you it was incredible footage from a historical moment in life, in my life, and I just wish I had that footage. That's all I have. If I could find that camera and just give me the SD card, that's all I want, that would be amazing. So it was a good reminder not to hold on too much to gear, and just to remember why I'm creating, why I'm capturing these moments is really just to create stories and to be able to remember this all. So yeah, it was a good reminder, I guess. Another thing I learned is that however cliche it sounds, it'll get better. At that moment, that night, I thought the world was done and I never wanted to shoot again. And now this year I've gotten more opportunities and bigger opportunities that I have over the last 5 years. So I think that it's just a good reminder that things do get better, things improve. You just gotta allow your mind to rest a little bit, but also learn from these setbacks. If you don't learn from them, usually you're just repeating the same mistakes over and over again. So I think that there's a part of that needs to come from yourself. You need to be putting in the work and at least learning a little bit about these setbacks and these failures. But just overall in general, typically we all try to improve and become better people, so things usually get better. Another thing I learned was obviously to be grateful. I didn't have any gigs because of COVID. They had pushed back all my weddings to the next year, so I didn't have to worry about any clients. And I also had an extra camera, so I was super grateful about that. I also learned that mistakes don't define me as a human being. I was really scared to share this publicly, and this is the first time I do so, because I didn't want people to think of me as unprofessional, the guy who always loses his gear, because I've lost gear before. I just felt like I was a failure, and this was it. So one small failure like that, or a big failure, doesn't necessarily define me if I allow myself the ability to grow and learn from it. So again, there's a portion of that has to come from me. What I'm saying is that these moments don't define us, but how we react to them or how we learn from them eventually to define who we are. So those mistakes don't define us. And lastly, I was watching a YouTuber called Danny Gervitz, and ever since I started following him, the guy has crashed on a one wheel, broke his brand new EOS R. I think he also broke his toe, and he's also now recently broke his Canon C200. You know, me in my mind, when it was all happening in the heat of the moment of my incident, I was thinking, well, this is just happening to me. I don't see anyone else losing their gear. Like I'm God or life or whatever is against me. And I just remember seeing those videos and I was like, okay, I guess I'm not the only one who's having to go through some of these failures. So I'm super grateful for people like Danny who shared their failures online, because most people go through failures, they just don't share it. And this is kind of why I'm making this video, but I'm just really grateful he was able to share it, because it helped me through that difficult moment and it helped me, get out of it. So just a reminder, you're not alone. Life isn't out to get you. It's just out to get us videographers and content creators. But yeah, that's my story. I hope I didn't bore you guys, and I hope you guys learned a little bit through this. If this is just a reminder to some of you guys, just like Danny did to me, that, mistakes happen and that you're not the only one who's going through hardship, then I did my job. So yeah, that's my story. If you guys enjoyed it, you guys can definitely hit the like button. If you guys want to drop a comment about your setbacks or some of the failures you guys gone through, if you guys lost the camera and went through this, I'd love to hear some of your stories. Definitely consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.